Welcome to this explainer. Imagine this for a second. You are packing up your life and moving to a completely new country. You've got a total blank slate, and you have to make one of the most important decisions of your life right off the bat. Where are you going to put down your roots? Are you heading straight for a vibrant, densely populated urban area? Or are you seeking out a remote, peaceful rural community? Well, today, we're going to objectively compare the realities of urban and rural living. We'll be using real-world data to help you understand the true standard of living in both of these places. All right, let's dive right into this. So, city lights or starry nights? I want you to close your eyes and picture your ideal day, from the minute you wake up to when your head hits the pillow. Ask yourself, what kind of environment truly fits your lifestyle? You know, when we move to a new place, we rely so heavily on stereotypes, right? It's always the exciting, fast-paced city versus the perfectly tranquil countryside. But what do the hard facts actually say about the daily reality? To answer that, we're going to follow a day in the life of two hypothetical residents. We'll track an urbanite and a rural resident to see the concrete trade-offs each location demands. On one side, you've got bustling city centers packed with amenities like shops and restaurants. And on the flip side, you have quiet rural retreats offering a slower pace of life and plenty of wide open space. Let's see how these two entirely different environments shape a typical daily routine. Section 1. The morning commute. Getting around. Okay, let's kick off our morning. In the city, everything is packed close together thanks to high population density. This density is a real game changer because it allows for public transport like buses or non-motorized options like just walking to work. Conversely, rural living pretty much forces you to rely on a personal car. Simply put, out in the country, you're going to need a motorized vehicle to commute pretty much anywhere. Geographic distance strictly dictates how we get around. Looking at data from a 2019 UK study, urban commuters are almost 3 times, 2.8 times to be exact, more likely to hop on a bus or ride a bike to work. Now, rural residents might totally avoid the stress of the city's bumper-to-bumper rush hour, but they trade it for much longer distances and a heavy reliance on driving, which, let's be honest, can be a really expensive necessity. Section 2. Working and earning. The wage gap. All right, time to clock in. And here is a massive number. 24%. The crucial point here is that rural workers globally are paid on average 24% less than their urban counterparts on an hourly basis. That is a huge difference in income. When you're deciding where to move in a new country, wrapping your head around this wage gap is absolutely vital for your financial planning. But why does this gap even exist? Well, think of it like a giant puzzle. Urban environments typically command greater cultural resources and deeper business networks, which naturally provides a higher concentration of employment opportunities. The data shows that about half of this 24% gap is driven by differences in education, job experience, and the specific types of jobs available. Cities simply have a denser network of high-paying industries. Section 3. The cost of home, housing, burden. Work's done, so let's head home. But paying for that home? That's a whole different story. While urbanites might bring home a bigger paycheck, the city demands a premium. 1/3, that's 33%, spend over 30% of their income on housing costs. This makes them officially housing cost burdened, meaning their rent or mortgage is just too expensive for their salary. Compare that to 1/4 or 25% of rural households. Just take a look at this research mapping the United States. See all that intense red clustering, especially along the coasts? In almost every region, a higher proportion of urban households are burdened by these massive housing costs. The hustle and bustle of the city comes with a very steep price tag, meaning your supposedly higher urban salary might literally be eaten up by your rent the second it hits your bank account. But hold on, we have to look at the nuance here. World Bank data suggests that we actually sometimes overestimate how much more expensive the city really is. Why? Well, because urban homes often have better building quality and immediate access to top-tier services. In economic terms, city housing acts almost like a luxury good. Yes, you are paying more, but you are getting a lot more convenience and infrastructure in return. Section 4. Health and Well-Being. Psychological Truths. As we settle into the evening, this is where the data might literally blow your mind. Contrary to that popular myth of the perfectly peaceful, idyllic countryside, a University of Houston study found that rural Americans actually report higher levels of anxiety, depression, and neuroticism. The highly romanticized idea of country life just doesn't always match the psychological reality, where feeling isolated can take a massive toll on your mental health. A massive driver of this stress is a sheer lack of resources. Look at this quote. Almost 85% of all rural counties have a mental health professional shortage. 85%. This lack of access to specialized medical care and emergency services is a huge driver of psychological stress. If you're moving to a new country and have specific healthcare needs, this shortage is a critical trade-off you absolutely have to consider. Section 5. Crime and safety. Victimization rates. As night falls, we have to talk about personal safety, which is usually a top priority for anyone relocating. The data clearly shows that violent crime rates are indeed more than double in urban areas compared to rural settings. In the city, there are 24.5 victimizations per 1,000 people, compared to just 11.1 out in the country. Property crime follows a very similar trend, being much, much higher in those densely populated areas. But to be completely objective, we have to note a fascinating discrepancy in how these crimes are actually handled. While the country appears statistically safer on paper, rural victims report crimes to the police at drastically lower rates than urban victims. For instance, 25% of aggravated assaults in urban areas are reported, versus just 8% in rural areas. So while the raw number of incidents might be lower out in the country, the local culture around reporting and handling crime is vastly different. Section 6. Choosing your lifestyle. Finding your fit. So as our day comes to an end, the big question is, which set of trade-offs best fits your personal lifestyle? Are you going to choose the walkable, high-earning, but super expensive and densely populated city? Or will you opt for the spacious, affordable, but potentially isolated and car-dependent country? When moving to a new country, understanding these data-driven realities ensures you aren't just chasing a fantasy. Think about what you value most. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. If you had to pack up tomorrow, which set of sacrifices are you truly willing to make to find your perfect home?